Radio check, anybody copy? Hi, everyone. I'm Alice Kaniklen, and this is episode 2 of Alaska Natives on the Frontline, a special series of Coffee and Quaq that focuses on climate change in Utqiaġvik, Alaska, brought to you by a grant from the Putlizer Center through the Connected Coastlines program. Alaska Natives on the Frontline is a special series of Coffee and Quaq highlighting the adaptability and resilience of the Iñupiat in the face of climate change. It was done in partnership with journalist Jenna Kunze. We traveled up to Utqiaġvik earlier this year at the peak of winter when the sun had just returned back to the Arctic and interviewed residents about the various aspects of how Iñupiat life has changed, but also how it has remained the same. This episode features brothers Jack and Brower Frantz, Iñupiaq hunters and whalers born and raised in Utqiaġvik, Alaska. Brower is a subsistence research coordinator for the Wildlife Department at the North Slope Borough and a father of 5 children. And Jack, also a father and stepfather to 7 children, is an avid hunter-gatherer with an associate's degree in media arts and currently works as an advisor to the mayor of the North Slope Borough. Jenna and I sat down with Jack and Brower in my childhood home living room over coffee and tutti soup.
We've always hunted, and we've always hunted with the Iñupiaq, with our skin boats, and in the springtime, and really that was because that was how we had to do it back then. That was how we had to get meat on the table. And if you look at it from our perspective, that's the most important thing, is that we get food on the table. I think I personally love using Iñupiaq. I love sitting there discussing stuff with my uncles, discussing how to hunt, discussing stories, discussing how they want to hunt the whale, and waiting for the whale on the edge of the ice. That's how I would prefer to hunt in the springtime. But if that's not available, I am all for aluminum, getting an aluminum boat and going out and catching a whale, because that might be the only way that we can do it. If that's how we have to do it, then that's how we have to do it. I think the Utqiaġvik mentality, for the most part, is that, we want to feed our community. We want to make sure we get whales and bring them in and share it with our friends, our family, everybody in the community. We always want to make sure that whatever we put out there is going to be positive for our community and how we hunt and how we spend our day-to-day lives. And hunting is a big part of what we do.
That's like all we do.
That was an understatement for me. My name is Jack Frantz. I'm 36 years old. I was pretty much born and raised here in Utqiaġvik. I spent the first year in Iñupiaq. My dad was a village supervisor over there for the first year. And then we moved to Utqiaġvik right around the time when Brower was born. We have really, really deep roots here in Utqiaġvik as far as whaling and hunting, and also on the business side too. Our grandfather started a gas station and started a store. Raised my dad's family up here for a while. So we've got a lot of history here. And I also have pretty big family of my own. I have my 5 kids, and I try to include them in everything that I'm doing here in Utqiaġvik and show them how I was raised and show them how I want them to spend their time up here when they get older. Hopefully that passes on. I'm also, I work for North Slope Borough Department of Public Works. I'm Roads, Airports, and Sanitation Division Manager for all 8 communities on the North Slope. Keeps me pretty busy, and I guess that's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah, and Brower Frantz, Jack's younger brother, 34. I was born and raised here in Utqiaġvik, Barrow, Alaska. Name's Brower, and I live in Browerville. Raising my kids here is definitely one of the funnest things I do here. We do hunt a lot, as Jack had mentioned. That's a large focus of our entire year. Caribou hunting, whaling, Utqiaġvik, hunting in general here is life.
Where do you work now?
I work for the Department of Wildlife for the North Borough. I'm the subsistence research coordinator.
What does a subsistence research coordinator do?
So we work with all of the villages on the North Slope, and we work with a lot of the harvest surveys and collecting information on subsistence throughout the year. So it ties in very well with growing up here.
I oversee a large part of the operational employees for Public Works. I work directly with the village supervisors, and they oversee airports in their communities. They oversee road maintenance, and we also are in charge of sanitation, which includes septic tanks and honey buckets. So it's a lot to do in a week, so we try to do it the best we can. And that's for all 8 communities, so we're pretty busy.
Can you guys talk about like how and when you guys learned to hunt?
So we started off fairly young. Must have been 5, 6, 7, somewhere around there. It was pretty young. We had bow and arrows, and I remember going after ptarmigan south of Utqiaġvik. We would go quite a ways for goose hunting. This was before we were given any shotgun training or anything, so we started off with bow and arrows while our parents were out goose hunting with family. So we'd go out and try to catch squirrels, ptarmigan, brown birds, all kinds of stuff. And upgraded to BB guns, and went from BB guns to 22s to 410s, and 410s to 20 gauges. That's just progressed slowly throughout the years and got good enough to, once we moved over to the 410s, then we were out duck hunting. Our parents would bring us duck hunting and show us the ropes and just make sure we were trained properly. A lot of gun safety stuff. Moved to geese after ducks and ptarmigan. Ptarmigan actually was one of the biggest learning curves. Not learning curve, but we started off with ptarmigan and ducks. Once we got ptarmigan down, that was more shotgun training than anything. Then we moved it from 410 to 20 gauge, and then we were good enough to hunt geese. A lot of the bird hunting was some of the earlier hunts, and once we got good with goose hunting, then at least for me, I moved over to catching my first caribou. Used a 25-06, my dad's old 25-06. That was a good round for caribou. I caught that 20 miles out at near Iñupiaq Creek, right off the creek. We were pretty close to one of our office cabins, just a few bends away and about a mile off the river. Learned how to skin caribou then. I must have been maybe 11 or so, 12 when I caught my first caribou. Yeah, once we learned how to fillet caribou, cut them up, then that was kind of the beginning of an era. We continue today. That's some of the best stuff, is to go out caribou hunting and come back with some of the best meats around. It was always fun to bring meat home to mom.
I think I might have shot my first tip around the same time, but I was 12 at the time. But I remember our dad, he always tried to make sure that we had the right equipment so that we could go out and do all that stuff. When we were younger, he'd bring us out. We were out with a boat on my first trip. I was so excited when my dad was showing me how to use the gun, or not showing me, but just reminding me how to use the gun and making sure it was loaded and all this stuff. And I remember being so close to these big bull and they were crossing the river, and I was going to shoot them when I got out of the river. And I remember when they got out of the river, I was pulling the trigger and nothing was happening, and I was going, my mind just froze. because I was so excited. My dad looked at me and said, "Is the safety on?" So I missed out on a big bull tutu. I think I had to shoot a smaller female for my first tutu after that. And my dad, I think he kind of did it just so we knew how to do it. My dad's allergic to tutu, so he can't go out and hunt them and bring them home. I always give my mom a lot of grief and ask her why she married a man that can't hunt tutu. Yeah, soon after I turned 18, I had decided I was going to move out of the community, and I moved out of the community for 10 years. I came back when I was 28, and I really had not forgotten, but just need to be reminded of how to skin a tutu, how to go whaling and all this stuff. So I think me and Brower's roles kind of reversed a little bit, because he was teaching me how to hunt at that point, hunt everything, and I was being reminded of how to do stuff. So I had to relearn once I got back to the community, which was about 7.5 years ago. So, but since then, I've caught back up.
For people that don't understand or don't know what goes on in preparation for the whaling hunt, can you guys provide like an overview of what that scene looks like, and then what you guys do to prepare all year round?
I'll just go through what we did this last summer. We got a couple of big rooks, and we harvested them, which we have in our freezers right now. And then we took the skins and we rolled them up in its own fat, kind of like the leftovers from what we're not going to eat. And then I have 2 big skins right now that we are going to be pulling out of the oils, and we're going to be taking the fur off of the skins so that we can put them on our skin boat. So during the summer, we knew that we were going to have to put new skins on, so we went and got the skins. We're going to be taking the fur off here, and then probably within the next week or so, we got to thaw them out, and then we bring in the ladies to go and sew the Iñupiaq together, which takes a lot of work. It's like 24 hours of just straight sewing, and then once that's all done, we put it outside. Then generally somebody from the crew just makes sure that it tries to stay in the sun as much as possible to try to bleach it. And then we start breaking trail. As soon as we can, we want to start breaking trail like end of February, early March sometime, and look at the ice conditions, see where the best spots would be to land a whale, and see if we can, it's never 100% if the ice is going to stay like that, but you really want to go check it out. And then during the whaling season, what you'd like to see is that most of the crew really dedicating that time to sit there and go whaling for a couple of weeks. And sometimes like last year, or maybe the year before that, the captain spent a lot of time, I want to say 5 or 6 weeks straight, just whaling out on the ice. And then after whaling's done, you go through Iñupiaq if you're successful, and then you start the process over. And Iñupiaq is in June, and then end of July you start hunting for seals again. So it's kind of you don't do it every year. If you're not successful whaling in the springtime, generally you can keep your skins on your boat, and you don't have to hunt seals, but we still hunt them just to get some meat in our freezer. So that's kind of a gist. I don't know if I missed anything, but.
Yeah, there's upkeep of the cellars as well during the winter months, cleaning out the cellars. Also refilling them with snow or ice, depending on what the crew likes to use. Opening them up during the minus 20, minus 40 Fahrenheit cold spells. After you clean them out, you can open them up. And some cellars nowadays have issues out in the warmth. The climates are different. But once it's cold enough outside, the crews will open the cellars and let the cold air do its thing and permeate into the into the cellar to keep